It's just absolutely terrible. It's up and down so bad. I'm just looking at the statistics in the corner there, folks, and it's not looking good for today's stream. I'll crack in for a bit, but if it gets any worse, we'll have to try it again another time, I'm afraid. Anyway, so the first thing we normally do on every stream is introduce myself. My name is Bean. I'm from Dublin. I live in the UK. I've been working with PCs since I was about 15. I've been a PC gamer since I was about 12. And on these streams, I like to just throw together normally budget PC builds that I flip, but this particular one is actually for myself and my wife. So this particular build is just a standard media PC, nothing too hectic. Integrated graphics. I'll run through my parts in a second, but if you take a look up that side, no, that side there, you'll see a list of what's going into this machine and how much it cost. So the first thing we like to do is crack open a nice beer because we're all adults here. So the first thing we do is we crack open a beer. So today we're on Staropramen. Turn some music on and let's get into it. Hello there. We are back. I don't know if you can hear me or how bad this connection is, but I'm going to pour myself a beer anyway and I'm going to crack into it for a bit. If it gets any better, we'll continue. If not, we'll leave it as is. So, first things first is cheers to everybody. Right, so let's go through what we've got in store today. So, processor wise, we've got a Ryzen 5 5600G. It's an APU. Motherboard wise, we have our MSI Mag B550M motor. RAM, we've got 16 gigs of Corsair Vengeance DDR4 3200 CL16. Cooling it down, we're going to be using Be Quiet Pure Rock 2. And storage, nothing too fancy, just Samsung Evo 970 Plus, the 500 gig model. Power supply, just a 550 watt MSI Mag A550BN for bronze. An extra fan we had lying around. And then the case is this fella here. It's the Phanteks P300. It's not the A, which I love. It's the standard non-airflow one. So that's our case. So I think first cab out the rank. Let's get our motherboard all prepped up and ready to go. So let's do some unboxing. So this is the B550 motor. It's a MATX board. We picked it because it's got pretty good connectivity, if you can see on that side there. Plenty of USBs. You've got your 2.5 network NIC. You've got DisplayPort, HDMI, and then optical out, which is or your optical sound, which I will be using on this particular board because I'm going to hook this up to a soundbar, so that's going to be pretty useful. And then it also has Wi-Fi as well, so that would be the other reason why we want to use it. So let's set her down and let's get our CPU installed. Now, as we said, it's the 5600G. Let's get this open. So this does come with its own cooler, and you can use it. It's just a little bit on the noisy side, so just to keep things quiet and cool, I went with a big, quiet cooler. You don't have to. It's purely a choice on my hand. Like, they're pretty low powered. They're like a 65 watt TDP CPU, so it shouldn't make too much heat. But the object of this one is cool, quiet, calm, and so we don't hear it over whatever we're watching on TV. So it's our processor out. With all AMDs, very simple. Raise up the retention arm. Take our CPU out of its packaging. Be careful not to bend any pins. Line up your triangles. And you drop it in with 0 insertion force. So hopefully this should just drop in like that. Let's double check that we're all okay. We all look good here. So put down the retention arm. First job done. Now, next job. Attaching this behemoth of a cooler. So as I said, this was the B550 Pure Rock 2. Thanks, mate. I tried to keep it kind of simple, straightforward, reliable, nothing too fancy, but something that will be robust. And then if this decides to have another life as a different machine, so if it's not just like a media streaming machine and a secondary PC, then it's good enough that we can drop in something a bit more high powered in the CPU department, drop in a discrete graphics card, and off it'll go. So that's kind of the choice of parts and why we arrived at that. So next fella out is our Be Quiet tower. Right, they pre-apply thermal paste on that. We will probably use theirs, although we've no shortage of thermal paste in here. We've got Noctua stuff, we've got MX4, I think we've got MX3 and MX6 knocking around here, so let us have a gander at this. I have installed on this one before, but it's been a long time, so just bear with me. I will probably need to figure this one back out. Clips for our fan. Mounting hardware. This we definitely need. This is the bar we use to mount it down. But in order to prep it, I'm not quite sure if we keep the retention stuff that's there or if we need to replace with some proprietary Be Quiet stuff. So let me just check. That says AMD, and I think I know where we're going with this, but let me just leave that there. And then this bag conveniently says Intel, so it looks like that's all we're using for this. Let's take out the actual fan that's included. Get you out of the way because we don't need you for now. Now, and instructions. I should be pro enough not to use this and just throw them away, but it's been a while. I've used this particular cooler I think twice or 3 times, so just want to double check that I'm not doing anything silly. So AMD, AM4, here we go. So that's pretty straightforward. So all we're literally doing is we're going to take off these plastic mounts off each side and replace them with some spacers and nuts from Be Quiet, put on our 2 brackets on it, and then this will mount down on top of it, and then a bar goes across it to make sure that it's flush. So yeah, I have done this before. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't making any silly mistakes. Another sip of beer, and if anybody else is watching, feel free to say hello and ask any questions, or if there's any issues with the stream, which I know very limited on bandwidth at the moment, just yell and we'll try and do something about it, although I can't guarantee I can fix it. So, first things first for mounting, let's take the included AMD mounting hardware off. So I think last time I went to mount this I ended up doing it incorrectly. So let's try and not do it this time. So 4 spacers. Take it off 4 spacers. Set our fella down and move around. So we use the screws then to screw this in, so the spacers. I think last time I done it I ended up mounting it the wrong way around because I was actually putting it onto an older socket. I was putting it onto an AM3 question mark, whatever FX series was. So there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here is the question. If that is going to sit like so, we need the bar to mount yonder way across, which means our arms need to go down lengthways. So if I'm not mistaken, it should look something like that when it's done. Hopefully we don't do anything silly this time around with this particular. And last screw. I think it's MX6 or MX4. I'll have to check. I've got all the, going back to I think even MX3, the original stuff I have somewhere. I used to buy quite a lot of it back in the day, but I definitely have the Noctua stuff knocking around as well. I just have to check my drawer, which is down behind the PC. But I mean, for AM4, the pre-applied stuff is pretty decent. I don't think there'll be any need to do anything with it. Right, so drop this fella on top and get decent contact. And then the bar should go unless I've done this terribly wrong, the bar should just kind of just pop her down and go on top of it. So I think that is us mounted. Give or take a second. I believe that's it. Been a while. Yeah. Let's get this fella in. Let's get the other one threaded in so we're not too high on either side and we can get a good bit of tension down on it. You've made the oldest mistake in the book. You've tightened that just a bit too much. So let's just loosen that up a bit. Yeah, we've got a bit more play on that now. Never try and bolt it down on one side. Yeah, sorry about the buffering. Just before I was about to go live, my internet just decided to start being weird because it knew I wanted to stream. I'm on limited bandwidth here. Unfortunately, I'm the only street on the road that isn't on fibre. Not through lack of me wanting to give out to them to try and get sorted. So I'm actually streaming off my phone at the moment, which is normally better than my internet. So I'll give it another 10 minutes, and if it's still playing around, what I'll do is I'll switch back to my actual internet. So hopefully that'll solve it. Should be almost clamped down, as should this. And that should be it. Let's just give it a little wiggle. It looks pretty secure now. So, we go ram then fan. So, just release our two clips either side and either side. So we're putting it into channels 2 and 4 as you're looking at it here. Or furthest right, blank, then next one in. So, line these bad boys up. And then just drop her in. And once you hear the 2 clicks, you're normally good to go. Next, so we're only putting one fan on this, we won't be getting greedy, so we just need 2 clips. Okay, so I'm going to take the fan in the way that makes the most sense, which is usually that way, but this cable is ridiculously small. And it needs to go into that connector there. So let's see, maybe down along and in. So let's try this. Do it a slightly different way. We're going to plug it in first and drop that in. Better, and then I can never remember. Either goes to the full outside. Yeah, I would have always thought they went to the inside, but what's this saying? Let's just double check. It's going outside and then in. A Star Wars error. A Wookiee mistake. Let's take out the RAM. I'll show you why now in 2 seconds. And we're getting too far ahead of ourselves there and making too good time. Let's take that out because I think what we need to do, clip you in first, get you down where we want you to get you down to, then slide you in, and slide across. If we rotate around now, should be able to do similar on this side now as well. Get in. Actually struggle like a struggling person. Mangle a fan into place. There we go. Ish. Let's see. Where are we? We are totally wobbly. This needs to go up one. How was that? That looks almost perfect. Yeah, that took way longer than expected. Now, back to putting the RAM in. Yeah, that's our RAM back in. So, I think the next thing to do is install our M.2 drive. Oh, what's the smaller screwdriver to begin with? Weird. Right. Smaller screwdriver. Wow. Jeez, there's a bit of torque on them. It does not want to move. So we remove our heat shield. What's this fella here? On to installing our SSD. Hello there. How are you, my friend, Pink Fluffy Whale? How are you keeping? Yeah. So let's just get this drive installed. So literally we just line the keys up, pop it in, drop it downwards, and screw back on our heatsink. So that's that fella. Let's screw this fella in. Okay, so that's our M.2 done. So I believe we are now on to grabbing a beer. Where's my beer gone? Oh God. Cheers, sir. Beer and electrical components together at last. And sorry if I'm not as chirper sounding as I normally am. I'm literally just getting over a sinus infection. As you can probably hear, I'm still a bit kind of groggy and snuffly. But in the words of Jay's 2 cents, we shall digress. Right. I think next cab out the rank is just getting the case out. I am so glad you could join me. Thank you. Right, so this is the P300A. This was B stock from Overclockers, and funny story, I didn't order this. I ordered a P300A for a friend's build. They sent me the P300 by mistake, which was B stock, at 35 quid. They then shipped me a replacement P300A and then gave me like 20 quid off this one. So this basically cost 25 quid instead of, I think it was 25 quid instead of 35 plus shipping, but I never ordered this, guy, so this was lying around for quite some time. So let's do some unboxing. So I haven't a clue what condition this is in, other than it's B stock, so it should be fine. We're not looking to win any beauty contests with it. It just needs to be in one piece, which allegedly it is. Okay. This is not too bad. It's not the airflow version. It's the non-airflow version. Let's get her up for a peek for everyone. Ta-da! So as you can see, it's the black and white version. So let's get this one sorted. Side panel off. We've lost a screw already, which is good news, I suppose. Where's it gone? Ah, there it is. Right, side panel off. Let's get the dust filter off. Let's get the other side panel off. You're a bit tight. So I will be laying this flat down, otherwise I'd have to move this up a bit so you can see it, but that's the inside of it. Oh god, temps. So all the windows are open here at the moment. This building is a listed building that I live in. It's about 200 years old. So it was like a sweatbox. Even today, because the building retained so much heat, even though it was cooler today, I had all the windows open, fans blown out, and if you just put your hand up against the walls, it's still radiating heat. So struggled big time. Didn't have my big PC on the whole time, so the PC I'm streaming off at the moment, I didn't turn it on at all, apart from maybe about a half an hour in the evenings to play a bit of Warcraft. But yeah, it was so hot I physically didn't touch a PC, apart from my laptop being on for work, and then straight off as soon as. I struggled big time. Ice packs, t-shirts in the freezer, ice cold water. Oh god, it was not good. Us potato people, once it gets over 20 degrees, it's like summer for us. So seeing 40 while also struggling with a cold, yeah, not for me. Definitely not for me. Right, so let's get the back panel off. Side panel off. Right, so what have you got going on? Right, well, everything's still managed and routed. Good. Enough. Yeah, I thought this might be the case. So because it's B-stock, we're missing in our tray here. We don't have our little accessories, which is fine because I have screws and cable tidies and all that sort of stuff myself, so that shouldn't be an issue. So I'm thinking one of two things. I'm thinking install the power supply now, route the 8-pin up to the top before I install the motherboard, because otherwise that might be a pain to reach in, and route the 24-pin, although it shouldn't be an issue. So I'm thinking actually that's what we'll do, rather than go straight to motherboard, which is what I would usually do with a better case. I think we'll just literally chuck in our power supply and maybe our fan that we're going to put at the front here, and call it a day with that. So yeah, let's go ahead with the power supply next. And this isn't a slotty in, it's a slot in from the side, so I actually should be able to show you on this side, question mark, maybe up a bit. Is that better or worse? Probably worse. Grand. So power supply, where did we put it? Power supply. Here it is. So again, yeah, that's our Mag A550BN. So it's just a really bog standard bronze rated power supply, 550 watts. For driving what we've got there, it's fine. It would probably drive up to a 60 class card as well, probably even a 60 Ti if we wanted to, but that's not the aim of this. It was just to get something that was known to be decent and have enough juice to power that. So that was that one. I suppose I should ask you, Mr. Rugby 187 Gaming, how was your last couple of days? You're closer to London than me, so I used to live in London and I've moved out towards Reading, so you were closer to London, so you must have been 1 or 2 degrees higher than me, so hopefully you survived it as well. What have we got going on in here? Join MSI, important information, shout out, how to enter. Oh, we can do a shout out apparently. That's our 3-pin, we will need that for later. So if I'm not mistaken, this is a non-modular power supply. So it's going to be the old-fashioned, use what we need and then bundle the rest up and hide it in the drive cage job, which we're well versed at. I don't think we need anything else. We don't need any SATA connections. Oh, we do, because this has one light, so we need one SATA connection, and that's it. New power supply smell. Did they? The absolute dirtbirds. This is the first time in a long... Ah, there it is. I was about to give out to them and say they didn't give me screws for the power supply. But they did. They were just hiding in the bag. Yeah. So this is my first time using an MSI power supply. They have been fairly highly rated, so I'm hoping that it lives up to the billing on all the tier lists, because I'd be mighty disappointed if it sucks. So let's situate our power supply in. Let's line her up and get her screwed down. Right, 4 screws in easy, hopefully. Can we see what I'm doing here? Kind of. I might actually be able to just dip that down a bit, and you can see what I'm doing a bit better. One in. Two in. Three, and then finally number 4. Okay, so that's our power supply in. Nice and easy. So let's find out what we need and what we don't need. So we need one SATA for the small, there's like a small LED that hides there and then it goes onto that power, so that needs a SATA. So that's one cable we need. We need our 8-pin EPS, which is that gentleman there. What way does that go in? From the top ground. So that can go. You can start thinking about routing things. All together. Right, so you're going to go down and then out. Nice and easy. You're going to go. Let's get the one that doesn't have. They've both got terrible connections attached to them. So what we could do is, while we're at it, we can just connect this fella up already. You're connected. Then we can just bundle you up and you could sit there. Once you're zip tied together, 24-pin EPS will roughly, so it's going to be towards the top. So it's probably going to be either this slot or the one below it. let's err on caution and go with the top one here. So you're now pre-routed. So that means this excess, we can, if we want, we can just bundle it straight up. So I think that's what we're going to do. I normally use Velcro ties for this, but I don't have any Velcros to hand, so what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to bundle them up like so. And if I don't have any Velcros, which I don't appear to have, we're just going to use some zip ties, and then they can just go straight in and be stuffed. So let's get this done. Little ties. Nicely bundled up early doors. Let's see if we can get you a turn around to show you. So we've just bundled up the ones that we don't need, so they can be just straight away, they can be just stuffed right into the cage because we know we don't need them and they won't be in our way. That will probably, let's see, fan headers. System fan 2, system fan 1, so that's going to come out basically here as well. That's going to have to come out there, and then our additional system fan will go down through the middle. So next thing is we've already connected up this little SATA connector here, so we just want to literally just bundle the rest of these guys up because they're just going to be in the way. So if we bundle them up, we can just literally just stuff them there and they're not going to be in the way for anybody. So as I said, probably a little bit early to be thinking about cable management before you even put in a motherboard, but I always find if you got a plan of attack in your head before you start, it just makes it that much easier. So you don't end up like my main PC, which is got 13 cores